You have it?
I've heard about AI, but not about the normal language.
All right. All right. Let me turn. Got it. Okay. All right. First, a little bit about myself. First and foremost, I'm founder. I say CTO up here, but it's really CXO. I'm CEO, CTO, CFO of Mill5. I worked at Microsoft for over 10 years. Interestingly, for the same group that's in this building. So the Microsoft Technology Center. I was at the very first one. In fact, as I was walking in this evening, I saw about 8 people that was part of my former team walking straight out the door. They were going out to dinner. Some of them will be back in a little bit. But so spent 10 years at Microsoft. A couple things about me. I'm a SQL certified master. There's many people in this room that know me, know I'm a developer. The interesting thing about being a SQL Server certified master is all the DBAs hate me because I'm the developer that knows more than the average developer on SQL Server. I went to Drexel University. I have a degree in electrical and computer engineering, graduated summa cum laude, third in my class, and I'm a former adjunct professor at Drexel as well. Wrote a little book, Central Windows Communication Foundation. I still get royalties from this thing, surprisingly. Not much.
I still get royalties from my job.
You do? You know, but yeah, you know, I'm like, oh, that's a couple pizzas. So, but and you know, I've written an article on the internet called Developing High Quality Code the .NET Way, or SD Times, Software Development Times. They send me emails every so often and say, oh, we really love this article, it's still continues to be great. It's something I give all my junior devs coming in, and you know, when customers ask, oh, do you develop high quality code? I just point them to that. So okay, so let's get started for a little bit. I think everybody's heard of artificial intelligence. You know, nod your head if you have, right? What is it? Right? It's the ability of humans to simulate human intelligence by machines, right? So here we are, we have computers. Can they simulate what we as humans
Simulates the right word.
simulates? Well, you know, it's interesting you say that. I'm getting a little worried. I really am. There's some crazy stuff that's coming out there that I'm like, this is now that some of this stuff is happening. So the idea here is to simulate some form of human intelligence to be able to perform tasks, perform certain types of things like reasoning, right? And learn as we as humans do. There's a lot of different buzzwords. You know, my chief architect reviewed my slides. He calls this the word salad at the very bottom. But I'm going to be talking about some of these things, you know, everything from machine learning to deep learning to natural language processing. That's like the big thing in the news these days with ChatGPT and expert systems. Mill5, my company, we build a lot of those expert systems today, right? We do it for big companies. So that being said, we'll get into some of these things. So if artificial intelligence is about, you know, computers acting like humans, what is generative AI? Generative AI is the ability to generate content, create, basically like we as humans do, right? Everything from text to images to, you know, audio, video. How many people have heard about DALL-E? Right? DALL-E is this, you know, artificial intelligence platform where you can say, I want an image, and I want this image to look like this in the style of this. And guess what? It's going to render an image for you based on what you typed in. So it's going to understand what you typed in, and it's going to create it. We're going to see some of that later on. It's pretty cool. But DALL-E is just one of many. How many people use ChatGPT today? Keep your hands up if you use it on a daily basis. So about half the people put their hands down. All right. So There's a lot of different systems out there, ChatGPT, DALL-E, Deep Dream, GitHub Copilot, a lot of different systems for generating content based on artificial intelligence. How many people use GitHub Copilot? Interesting. Same number of people that had their hands up in the last one. All right. So we're going to see some of these things today as we go along. Machine learning. How many people do machine learning here today? You don't mind me asking, what do you use it for?
Forecasting and
For stocks, for trading, for what?
sales for different customers.
Right, sales for different customers, great. What do you use? Supervised learning, unsupervised learning, reinforcement,
A little bit of everything.
a little bit of everything? His answer is actually kind of an interesting one, because that's what I'm seeing is that people are using different types of machine learning to train their artificial intelligence models. So machine learning is the ability to present information to these models and have them learn about what is being given. The different styles that you often hear about are supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. So supervised learning, here we have data that's given to these models, and we are labeling these things, right? We're saying this is a cat, this is a dog, right? This is a picture of a person, and we're telling the machine, telling the models what to expect. Unsupervised learning, and there's a few flavors of this, is us presenting data to these models and not really giving it any information. It's learning through the patterns it finds in the data, okay? One of the things you'll find later on, there's a variant of this called self-supervised learning, which is confusing to me because it's really unsupervised learning. But it's what ChatGPT is based on. And what's happening there is the models were being presented unsupervised, or data unsupervised, but it's determining signals and patterns within it itself. And then there's reinforcement learning. So reinforcement learning here is we as humans are coming along and saying, hey, we're going to be performing certain actions, and by doing those actions, the models are going to observe what we're doing and then recording the results, all right? So all three of these things are being used right now for ChatGPT, which arguably is the biggest model on the planet, artificial intelligence model on the planet right now. Deep learning, this one's a variant of machine learning, so it's part of the machine learning space. This one uses neural networks as a part of its learning process, right? So at the end of the day, a neural network is trying to simulate the human brain, right? So it's simulating these cells in your brain and trying to make connections between these different cells. So the architecture of this, the layered architecture, and all the interconnections between these cells are what's helping you build your models. I'm going to talk a lot about ChatGPT in this, and we're going to see a lot of it. But all of this here is being used by ChatGPT today, right? There isn't a single thing on this slide that isn't being done by that, which goes to a question of, oh, do I have to do everything? Well, the answer is no, but some people do. All right. So we as humans communicate in a variety of different ways. Speech, text, right? These are just two simple examples of how we communicate. But we're communicating through language, right? So whether we're typing in something or we're using spoken word, the idea here is to understand us as humans and the language that we get, whether it's English, Spanish, something else, doesn't matter. The idea is to process that and understand. This is pretty often used in a lot of expert systems, especially around chatbots, where you say, I want to know something. In fact, even today, before I came here, I had to get on Bank of America. We had some issues. And I had to type into a chatbot. Why did I have to type into a chatbot? Because I can't reach a person anymore. All right. It's next to impossible on the very first contact for me to get somebody from customer service. Instead, I have to interact with the chatbot and it starts asking me questions. And I start giving it answers. And then I start asking questions and it's giving me answers. So all that process is trying to understand what my intent and what my desire is. How many people how many people have Apple phones in the room? All right. Use Siri every day? Yeah, all right. Siri is a great example. A good friend of mine actually worked on Siri. Actually, you might know him, John Pell. All right, if you know him. But and then I actually have to spell that. It's not Amazon Alex, it's Amazon Alexa. That fix that in my slide. And Google Assistant. So I have all three of these things. It's interesting when I make a mistake and one of them starts talking to me randomly. But these things are listening to us every day and trying to understand what we're doing and trying to react and give us something that they think we need. Right. So these are just some real world examples, but there are a lot of less common examples. All right. So large language models. All right. This is one of the things that we wanted to talk about today. All right. The idea behind this is that large language models play a very key role in natural language processing. As you would expect, with the first word, they're large. And when I say large, I mean terabytes and terabytes and terabytes of information. A lot of these models, like ChatGPT, is fed with as much information you can find on the internet and run through it, as well as paid for information like books, medical journals, all types of scientific journals, those type of things. All this stuff is run through these large language models. Why do we want to do this? Well, the more information we can give to these models, the more they can understand. So imagine if we fed it so much information, they can just do things for us. Well, I say we're there. All right, and you'll understand why at the end of this day, why I say that. But today we have things like language translation. There's a company locally, and my apologies if any of you are from this company, that they're a customer of mine, Linebridge. They do text translation. And so the idea there is I'm a company, I have a whole bunch of documents, I have to have them translated from English to say French or English to say French. And they have a whole workflow process that's human-based, where people upload the documents and then workers go and manually translate stuff. That was years ago. Do they still have to do that now? No. Right? All of this.
I assume it's 80-20.
There is, right? There's still, one of the challenges with AI is it's not perfect. And there are things like bias, and it does still make mistakes.
Or the training data. If I'm reading 19th century literature, it's probably not trained on that as opposed to.
Okay. You're absolutely correct, right? And especially, do I have a model for, Old English from like way back when? There probably is a model for that, but I wouldn't know what that is right now. But to your point, it's not perfect. It is still an 80-20 rule. One of the things I'll highlight here is, in my experience with these systems, I look at them as a productivity tool, not a full solution. Could they be a full solution? It depends, but I don't think we're there yet, but we're darn close. Some of the examples of large language models out there today are GPT-3, GPT-4. These things understand, full sentences. They understand, words and the context of those words strung together in sentences. ChatGPT, however, is built on these models and understands conversations. Okay, so that's kind of the difference between those type of things. But the interesting part about this is what you can do with these large language models. So I wanted to get into a little bit about ChatGPT and some of its architecture. First, is widely considered probably the most popular large language model on the planet. They talk about its popularity in terms of weeks and months, not months, years, or decades. This is the fastest growing adoption of anything on the internet ever. Okay, period. When they reached 100 million users, I think in less than 8 weeks. Okay. The way they got there, though, is interesting. It's funny that you said earlier, because as I put up here, you'll see that they took ChatGPT and they had it trained using a variety of different techniques. One of them was a self-supervised learning approach. As I mentioned earlier, this is an unsupervised, so not necessarily human interaction here. It's actually looking for patterns in the data, and it's giving itself signals as to what's correct and what's not. That being said, you have to do this. With the amount of data that they have, there's no way they can throw human beings at this and have it done, right? So they have to do some type of unsupervised learning. However, they went ahead and added something around reinforcement learning, and very specifically with human feedback. So part of this reinforcement learning was a human would get 2 results, and they'd be able to compare the results from the model, and they would be able to say which one was better, which one was worse. And this would be a scenario where, you know, they would tag these things as saying better or worse, and became this reward system where they would say, hey, this answer is more correct than this answer. All right. This is built on something, and I'm going to be fully honest with you. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this next thing. We had deep conversations about this internally at my company. Google's transformer architecture. This is a type of neural network that came out in around 2017, the architecture of this. And this specific type of neural network is being used to build some of the biggest models on the planet. When I was doing my research for this, you'll find that the majority of models out there today are based on this architecture. Not all of them, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them are. And then the last thing about ChatGPT, and this was crazy when I looked at it, was just the sheer volume of data. And they typically talk about data in 2 ways: the number of parameters, as well as the amount of data. So I have some statistics based on the number of parameters. And originally, when I was doing my research, I was looking for what are the number of parameters for GPT-4, which is the latest model out there. Anybody want to guess? It's in the what?
Billions.
Or anybody? Anybody want to guess? You're both wrong by that. By a large margin. So the GPT-4 number of parameters is much bigger. And when I was doing my research, I was looking for what are the biggest models on the planet right now. And GPT-3 is one of the bigger ones. There's something called Wu Dao. It's from the Beijing Artificial Intelligence Institute. That one was pretty crazy. That was the highest one I found until I dug deep to find what is rumored for ChatGPT 4 for GPT-4. So I'm going to show you some of those right now. So GPT-3 is currently at 175 billion. So that's close to what you said, but it's actually GPT-4, right? There is an open source model called Bloom. So the open source model for Bloom, this one's interesting. GPT-3 is based on OpenAI. That's Microsoft and several other companies. And you don't know all the details behind the scenes. You don't know all the training data behind the scenes, but you know it works and you know it's good. Yes, sir.
Doesn't that bother?
He's just setting. So, it does bother me, which is why the next thing, the Bloom, is very important. Right, so Bloom is about 1,000 AI engineers came out and built their own open source model, and you can actually get this today. Right, you can go out there and you can actually find all the data that they used to train that model. There are a lot of other types of models. Some of the more interesting ones are this Lambda language model for dialogue applications. You had said, or I think it was you that said earlier, simulate humans. This model, its claim to fame right now is that it actually fooled AI engineers into thinking it was sentient. Okay, yes, sir.
But how much of common world business does it understand?
Yeah, well, to your point, right?
Or what a 4-year-old.
I would say the majority of them know what a four-year-old would know, but physics, maybe not, depends on the data that was getting. Interestingly enough, I was looking for this one slide and I'm going to add it to this deck. GPT-3 was presented with all the standard professional tests, right? Like LSATs, right? Getting into,
MCAS and everything.
everything, all the professional, like 40 plus different professional degrees. And GPT-3 passed, and this is by memory, maybe 40% of those things. Like when I say pass, fully pass those exams. GPT-4 passed over 80% at high rating.
So you're gonna go to them.
I can tell you this, as soon as they come out with the model that's specific to the law, I'm gonna ditch my lawyer. And actually, it's kind of funny, I have a personal thing where my apartment had mold in it. And I use today ChatGPT 4, right, based on the GPT-4 stuff. I type in an email, I say, you know what, I'm not the best professional writer, especially when it comes to litigating, some issues. So I pasted in ChatGPT and I said, rewrite this professionally. And guess what? Gave me what I need, right? Because my partner building's like, oh, don't worry, we'll take care of it.
What kind of prompt engineering?
Very little, and we can see very, very little. Very little. All right, there are other models. The Megatron Turing natural language model. This is from NVIDIA and Microsoft. It has 530 billion parameters. Then I saw this one, and this scared me. Okay, Wu Day 1.75 trillion. And when I was doing my research, I'm like, oh my God, that's like huge, right? 1.75 trillion parameters. And I was like, wow, that's China. Where's the US in this? Right? And then I found the rumor of GPT-4. That's it.
Also, but if this is a naive question that I'm asking, if essentially transform model is predicting the next token, Chinese is a very different language than English is, and you may have more tokens that you have to predict, and the amount of parameters might be quite large.
Yeah, you mean outside of
This is an ignoramus question. I don't know.
the only thing I could say is I would hope that the people presenting this information took that into account. Which is why I still left it on this. Because you're absolutely right, does the language have an effect on the parameters and things like that? So, but I'm assuming that this is apples and apples. Okay. But then GPT-4, the best thing that I found is, and this is from multiple sources, they said it was 170 trillion parameters. And so I put it on the slide and I'm like, okay, I want to know for sure. There's an interesting video from Mark Rasinovich talking about how they're training these large language models in Azure. They are actually having to build out whole new global scheduling infrastructure to do the training. So think high performance computing, on a global scale crunching data.
So they're using spare BNAC, I mean, they're just squeezing the.
Absolutely, and containers.
Content.
Across the planet. But what's interesting is they have to do things like checkpointing. Because if they don't do the checkpointing, they get 2/3 of the way through and it fails, and then they have to start all over again. And when you're training something this large, how long do you think it takes?
Depends on what you're using.
Well, okay, it's Microsoft. They're using pretty fast things.
Yeah, they're using this in video service.
Yeah, they're using the NVIDIA service, and they even have some chips that they're working on to make these things even faster. But let's take a guess. What time frame do we think that this is still done? Seconds, minutes, hours?
Years.
It's not years.
No, it's in months.
It's in months, but it's like 6 months. Right? So, which is crazy if you think about it. All right, that's just nuts.
And they have to replace the entire model every time they retrain, right? You know, you can't incrementally.
There are facilities that they're doing to be able to do that. Okay. But that being said, do you think training these large language models are something you and I can afford and go out there and do right this second? No. What happens with these models is we can use these as a baseline for our work. And then we do something called fine tuning, where we present our own data. And that own data gives you the incremental on the foundation. Okay, so you can start to build expert systems targeted at specific domain, right? Medical, right? Engineering, science, law, right? I remember the name of the law company that begins with me. I'm gonna remember it later, but Microsoft's in bed with pretty much any company that has like a big corpus of data right now. They're building models internally. It's crazy what they're doing. So, all right. So I wanted to show you something real quick. I have a demo, and I decided to create my own superhero. So my own superhero, I said, generate a realistic photo that's a combination of a Marvel superhero and Einstein. All right. And I got 2 responses. We'll see which one's which in a minute. But let's see. Here's Dolly. And my apologies, I do need my glasses. So, all right. So Dolly, it's from OpenAI. And it's, taking the input I just said, generate a realistic photo that's a combination of a Marvel superhero and Einstein. Right. And look at this, right? So it did its best job. You can probably see, I think this is my history of things. All right. So you can see I was generating better images previously. Let me see. It's this one. All right. Yeah, this is the one I like the most. Kind of like that guy. I like that guy. And then there's Deep Dream. Let me
Question.
Yeah.
Did you iterate around? In other words, when you found the ones that you liked, did you try to change the prompt?
you already noticed that. You noticed it on the right-hand side. So you're absolutely right. I did do that. So one of the things about these large language models is you can iterate on this, right? So I could come here and say, generate variants. And that's kind of how, I went about doing this. I liked that one image and I wanted to use it as a baseline for it. And look at it. It's giving me a whole bunch of variation. Now, that's one way for me to iterate. I could have iterated using text. So, all right. So,
Do you have the power to say, I like this feature and this feature, like I like this guy's hair and this guy and this star on the costs for something and, or is it not that level?
Short answer is it is very good at doing something like that, right? Most of these models, you can actually iterate on it. And I've done that a lot, where I say, hey, give me the same thing, but remove something. Or give me the same thing, or add something. Or modify something in the image. Or in my text. Yes, sir.
Is DALL-E session based like ChatGPT is? In other words, when you,
It does have some session aspect of things, but it's limited compared to what you have with ChatGPT.
no, but I'm saying ChatGPT, you finish a conversation, use the session, it doesn't remember anything the next time.
So they keep the session history,
Yeah, they do have session history.
and I'm able to go back and
Okay.
still continue up where
Okay, but I just don't remember.
you can turn that off, but wow. That session history is kind of awesome, actually. So actually, a little story about last week. So last week, I'm very big right now into this kind of next level type, business type scenario. I was off at a leadership retreat last week, and I was with some businessmen, and we were having to do a skit presentation. And we were like, oh, I don't know what to do. What do? ChatGPT. Right? And we said, we need a skit that talks about this and talks about how we're gonna take our businesses from here to there. And we would say, make it fun. And it would spit out a whole bunch of ideas for skits. We're like, yeah, we like this, we like that. And we just kept iterating, and eventually we got it. The best thing about it though, is when we did our skit, they said it was the funniest thing ever. But then they said, but your message wasn't clear. So I have to thank ChatGPT for that. All right, so let's take a look at Deep Dream. So Deep Dream here, I could do things like set a base image. I can give it some parameters. I'm going to give it the same question I gave DALL-E and ask it to generate. Now, what's interesting, when you saw DALL-E generate some images, I already showed you one of my images that I generated. Was it the same image I had before? The answer is absolutely not. Oh, that one looks very close to the DALL-E image I got previously. Okay, so.
But it's better.
I think that one's actually better than what I had. But when I generated, yesterday, so I generated these two images yesterday, that's what I got. DALL-E was on the right and Deep Dream was on the left. Okay. Just curious, which one does everybody prefer, right or left? Left? This guy, right here. Oh, man. But everybody asked my company, said the guy on the right.
They wanted to look like Einstein, so the one on the left is close to Einstein. Right.
Interesting. All the intellectuals in the room like the Einstein. Yes, sir. What prompt? I said it's right here, actually. Generate a realistic photo that is a combination of a Marvel superhero and Einstein.
I'm looking at it as an engineer, and you gave it the constraints, and which one satisfies the constraints?
That's interesting. Okay, so obviously I work for Mill5. I actually own the company. Some things that we're actually doing today, this is just a small subset of AI problems that we work on. The very first one is video detection in the surgical room. So if you go into many hospitals, they have cameras in the room, very high definition cameras looking at the surgery, things like that. And we are actually analyzing in real time the video, 4K video on up, in real time using AI. The idea is we want to know the situation in the surgical room at any given point in time. Why is this a good thing? Well, the most basic thing is one of the challenges with hospitals is the surgical rooms make a ton of money, and when they're delayed or something's happening, they start losing money and patient care becomes less, all that stuff. So the idea here is if we knew at any moment in time what the situation was in the room, we can make a prediction as to when a surgery would be done. Okay. That was the very first thing we did. That was 4 years ago. We're going way beyond that at this moment. Okay. I'll give you a little flavor. There's more than just the cameras watching the surgery. Anybody guess another camera that might be involved in a surgical procedure?
Well, at the end of the day, they don't want the robot.
The endoscopes, any device that's in the patient's body with camera, right?
Are you also looking at the supplies that get used?
Yeah.
We are looking at everything in the room.
So you could say theoretically, this is going to be done at 3 p.m. We need 5 more sutures for that, and then for the next scheduled thing, and 3 of this, and
We can do all that.
Yeah.
Right, but usually it's a complete turnover in the room.
right.
You're not gonna have any, thing previously, so. But, so that's one thing we're doing. Next one, this is actually something that's going on right now. We're developing a next generation trading system for individual investors, like folks like you and I, that want to trade on the stock market.
Day traders.
Day traders, equity traders, commodity traders.
Speak yourself. I would never.
But the idea here is we are actually using AI to understand the different types of personas. And based on those personas, tailoring the software to run differently. It's pretty cool. Right, so and we're seeing some significant advantages in that. Sentiment analysis. So this one's kind of interesting. This is a common example. It's so common that we do it in a couple scenarios with customers. The idea here is we look at text and speech and we try to determine whether something's good or bad. Right? And the idea behind that is we want to make better decisions. Now, that's a catch-22. If your training data is bad, if you have a bias in your data, you might not be making good decisions. Okay, so you gotta realize that one. This last one's kind of fun. I actually have a bunch of interns working on this problem right now. We are doing a whole bunch of stuff for gaming and entertainment. And we want to drive user engagement with applications. And the idea behind this is to understand the users and start introducing gamification techniques to get higher levels of engagement.
Working with the data.
No. Right?
Because they're trying to do exactly.
I've done that before, right? So I have worked for casinos in the past life to get them to have high net worth, gamblers, clients, however you want to call it, spend more money. Right? Yeah, when they get comped, right? The only reason they get comped is because they want to spend more money. When they get a hotel stay, spend more money. Right? We were actually doing things kind of interesting. We're actually using video a long time ago that if you were driving up to the casino in your car, the video in the car would, or the video would see the car, flag it, know who you were. And by the time you got out of your car, the valet was like, "Hello, Mr. Crane. How you doing? Can I get your bags? Your suite, your standard suite is available for you right now." Right? Oh, and then a waitress comes up when you walk in the door and says, "Here's your cocktail."
So if that happened to you as a technically savvy person,
Mhm.
do you feel you're being taken care of? You just realize this is a game.
I probably wouldn't care. I was probably like, yeah, I'm being taken care of, but it is pretty crazy. And that's stuff from years ago. All right. Imagine what they can do now. It's pretty scary. All right, so I definitely want to show a quick video. And this will highlight some of the stuff that my company is doing now. And this was actually presented a while ago. This was actually on stage at Build. This was presented in 2019.
Our partnership allows us to focus on solving clinical problems, on making an environment where clinical teams can do their best work. We built a robust platform for being able to manage situational awareness for the operating room. But we needed more. We need the ability to take situational awareness to a whole new level. Our platform is built using Microsoft technology. We want to leverage the entire Microsoft AI platform.
We have all these cameras in the operating room that we've already installed. We can leverage that infrastructure and we can use AI to analyze the video in real time.
What DataBox Edge does is very easily integrate into that environment by being able to consume some of that video and run machine learning on it. The ability of running machine learning in near real time in an environment that is highly regulated where data can't leave your on-prem data centers is a huge deal. The DataBox Edge allows our clients to do that. The ability of actually building models in Azure, machine learning models, allow companies to realize new business opportunities based on how the technology integrates into their current ecosystem. Mill5 is a Microsoft Gold partner, and we work with clients in different industries. This can be used anywhere from oil and gas to hospitality to healthcare to banking, and a variety of different places. Managed devices like the DataBox Edge, it's a huge deal for our customers because it consolidates their footprint on what they need to manage, where they need to go to manage their devices, and where they need to go to actually look at the assets they have.
We're depending heavily on the Mill5 team. These guys are doing the in the trenches technical work to help bring it to fruition. Find a Mill5 like company to help you get started.
So as I said, that was
First day.
4 years now.
That was like.
All right, so that was some time back, and we've only gotten better and been doing more things. So, see here. I'm sorry, what? No. It is owned by two people. One person is on the screen, but that's Sri Bhuti. The other person is in this room. So, I typically don't talk a lot about Mill5, but I'll just give you the 50,000 foot view. We're a Microsoft partner. We've been around for 8 years. We have offices in Argentina, Colombia, India, and our headquarters are here in Boston. Right. So, yeah, we help big companies do amazing things. You know, we're known as innovators. So that's what we typically do. So, okay. So you might be asking yourself, how do you integrate ChatGPT into your application? So I was like, I know of two ways to do it. Okay. One is to go up to OpenAI and start talking to their APIs. So they have APIs out there. And I said, I don't know where to get started. Right? Well, what do you think I did? Right? I said, ChatGPT. I want to integrate.
ChatGPT teach you how to use Chat.
Oh, yeah. Right? I said, ChatGPT, please.
It's good at writing code.
Oh, it's great at writing code. Right? Yeah, they have actually something called a codex model, which is based on all of GitHub. Right? So that codex model is kind of interesting because it is what is behind GitHub Copilot. So, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay. Let's come out to ChatGPT. Come here. All right, so the very first thing you need to do, let me close that thing. You'll see at the very top here, they have GPT 3.5 and GPT 4. They default you to GPT 3.5. Anybody want to guess why?
It's cheaper.
Yeah, I believe that this is the third one. You're right, it is cheap, right? They would rather have you use the cheaper one with the fewer parameters, and as long as you got your results, you're happy. I'm like, no. Actually, it was kind of funny when last week I was doing the skit, I forgot to click on GPT-4. When I had GPT 3.5, I was showing them to my team, and they're like, and then I realized it wasn't on GPT-4, so I switched to GPT-4. And then I couldn't get my phone back because they took my phone away and they were just typing in shit constantly. So. Which one?
One that allows you to your own group function.
Oh, the plugin model?
Yeah.
I have tried the plugins. There are several plugins I have configured. The way they have it.
It's not clear to me how they figure out.
Well, no, that's the whole point of it is you only can select 3 plugins at a time. And I have 15 that I like. So it's like, oh, whenever I do a search, I have to tell it, I want these 3 plugins at that moment in time. They'll figure it out. Integrate Chat GPT into my application. So let's have this thing go and let's see what happens. Anybody want to guess what programming language this is? Yep.
Couldn't even see it.
So it's going through, it's doing a bunch of things here. It's giving me very clear instructions on how to integrate it. It's even giving me code examples, how to use it. I know Python, but given my Microsoft days, what do you think my #1 language is?
C sharp.
C#.
You can tell it to translate to the.
Well, let's do that. No. Please give me this in C#.
Why don't you try it? Please translate it to hero one.
Hold on, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Right? What do you see at the very top there? That's not the latest freaking .NET. You saw JSON? Right?
Well, this is 2003.
So, right? I'm like, oh, okay. You know, and it's telling me some more things, telling me some stuff to do. This code uses the Newtonsoft JSON library. Come on, right? So I'm like, all right, well, let's do this. Please get rid of Newtonsoft JSON and replace with system.text.json. It's pretty cool. So, my interns this summer are going to town on this. Right? I said it was the best $20 I spent per person for my interns. They get more stuff done than I can imagine. Right. So that being said, oh, wait a second. Hold on. Right, hold on. that might be something soon. So, all right, so let me come back here. So it gave me a Python example. All right, so for the people that don't want to go out to ChatGPT and want to just see it, and it gave me a C# example. Yes, you can see the system.text.json. Okay. Talk about OpenAI, right? You can call their APIs directly. There is something else. Microsoft just announced this. It's the Azure OpenAI Studio and Service. In order to get access to this, you have to apply. Right. So have anybody applied for access to this? So wow, 4 people in the room. That's awesome. Have you gotten access yet?
Yes,
Okay. Have you gotten access yet?
but I never use that.
Right. Yeah, I've gotten access, but I haven't used it. I've been playing around with it. There's some stuff that is still kind of like not there. Like I want to do fine tuning and train the models with my own data. And right now they're restricting it because of overcapacity reasons in the regions. Okay, but they've introduced Azure OpenAI Studio. This is pretty much the development platform. It's web-based. It has a whole bunch of stuff in there, you know, everything from voice, speech to, you know, all sorts of different types of things like video. The idea here, though, is, you know, they will provide you a whole set of models like ChatGPT 3.5 Turbo, ChatGPT 4, those type of things, and you can actually start leveraging them. Well, once you build your models and deploy them, you can access those models using the REST services that they provide. Okay, so that's the intent here. This is just a boilerplate slide that talks about, you know, Azure AI as a whole. You know, they're looking at a variety of different scenario-based systems, cognitive search, forms, video, bots. You know, typical Microsoft, they love to integrate everything and make it commodity-based. So I don't mind that because it makes it easy for me. But, you know, they're saying right now, and I actually don't find this to be true, that GPT-3, 4 are generally available. ChatGPT is generally available. DALL-E is in preview. If you want to use the models that are there and not fine tune them, go ahead. I don't know of any scenario where I wouldn't want to fine tune. Okay, so that's one of the challenges I have.
Fine tune exactly what you need.
Bring my own data and train the models with my own data to basically create a new system, new experts.
So in other words, you would just forget about those models.
No, it would be the basis for, so the fine tuning, these would be the foundation, right? Using pre-trained model.
This is knowing how to talk, and then the other is having specific.
knowledge. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is, here's my foundation. I can walk, talk, and hold a conversation. Right? I understand English. I understand another language, whatever it may be. And then on top of that, I'm going to bring my data to the party. Yes, sir.
Did you consider prompt engineering against the idea of training your or fine-tuning your model?
Yes, that is a big topic that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. Right, so prompt engineering is one of the big things that are out there as to how you can actually enhance and do stuff with AI. To be honest, I'm still trying to figure that out. So.
Because some of the good DALL-E or art models that I've seen by artists, they're like have 5, 6, 8, 9, 10 lines of prompt.
Yeah, my understanding is the quality of the output is based on the quality of the
Yes.
Yes.
As for example, your previous question related to the chat, the model is state.
Right.
So the chat is basically you start collecting all the conversation, answer a question and answer, and you feed again all the things. So this is the way that the model keep the context of the conversation. So, you know, super interesting in prompt engineering because I see people doing super cool stuff with that, avoiding to doing fine tuning. So this is the reason of the question.
Well, it's interesting because these base models don't know everything. Okay, that's one of the problems. And the large language models are so huge. I think I heard some ridiculous number. So don't quote me on this. I just heard it. That it costs Microsoft something like $700,000 a day to just run this shit. And they're all running at a loss. You know, I heard OpenAI, we spend $20 a month or free, right? It just depends on what flavor you want, right? Do you want everything? But even that, I hear it costs them $100 for each person. And some of the people are free and some of the people spend $20 with them per month. Right? So they're running this at a huge loss. And this is an interesting conversation because internally, we talk about this and we say, hey, are any of us going to be able to do this? And the answer is no. Who's going to be able to do it? The Microsofts, right? Elon Musk,
Google,
Google, Facebook.
NVIDIA maybe, and,
Well, NVIDIA is in bed with Microsoft, right? Because they don't want to put the whole bill. Right? You
but
know,
I assume there's lost need to learn.
now to your prompt engineering. One thing that's kind of important when you use something like that ChatGPT, the more information you can give it, the better your outcome. But you got to be careful what you give it. Sometimes I've given it too much information, I didn't get my result. And it gave me exactly what I wanted. But
You've never had it hallucinate?
you and the hallucinating, that's another problem, right? Where it goes off randomly and thinks of something that's not even true, right?
And you can't tell.
And you can't tell. You know, so,
Or just give you some data.
yeah,
Well, I actually tried the experiment. I don't think they'll let you do it now. I asked, who is Michael Stiefel? And it came back with a bio. That was about 85% true. And 15%, I don't know where it came up with that.
well, I'll give you a few fun examples. For my interns, I always have like a little pet project for them to do, to learn. And, my goal is to have them learn, us get a little bit of code, but mostly be fun. And, right now they're working on a little lotto app, which you'll see in a second. The little lotto app, we're going to integrate ChatGPT and say, ChatGPT, give me random numbers for the lottery. But if you said to ChatGPT right now, give me, a quick pick for the Powerball lottery, what do you think it's going to say?
We don't do that.
We don't do that.
I've had that happen to me when I've asked it to do certain things. So there's obviously a module in there that's censoring stuff.
Well, but if I say, in fact, let's do it, right? So if I say something cool, like, give me a quick pick for the Powerball lottery. Oh, wow, that's the first time. Wow, that's new.
They're changing this all. I find sometimes I do something one day, come back the next day.
Let me see something. It might be the model. Yeah, I'm gonna say a new chat. Yeah, that's what I think. Give me a quick pick for the Powerball. Okay, yeah, so this is an interesting one. As an AI language model, I can't predict or provide winning lottery numbers. So, but if I switched it to GPT, let's do that again, or no. No, you have to pretty much pay for it. Oh, look at that. That's a bug. That's a bug. Oh, wait a second, it just gave me it. All right. Oh, it just said I can't predict. Okay, I got faked out by it. All right, but let's go back to yeah, but if I said, give me 5 random numbers between 1 and say 55 and 1 number between 1 and 26. Right? It actually did it for me, but it also had this little thing. Please note that these numbers are generated randomly and have no connection to any actual lottery drawings. So it knows what I'm doing, right? It knows exactly what I'm doing. It's kind of cool. There's actually a pretty famous case where some lawyer used it to cite legal precedents, and they got it completely wrong, right? And the judge basically was like scolding this lawyer. Yes, sir.
I also tried to ask the to do geometric proof. And it botched it the first time, and I went back the next day, and 2 days later, and it got it right.
Okay, so I'm going to show Azure AI Studio just to show it. I think it's at least cool to see. Sorry. Where is it? OpenAI. There it is. Yeah. Let's see here. That's interesting. Let me come here. Select my resource. There we go. All right. So this is Microsoft's new studio that they released it built. I haven't been able to fully use this. Some of our customers are actually fully using it, but the way we're doing that is we're working directly with Microsoft on that. So I'm hoping this gets to a point where I feel like I can build a production system with just what's here right now. I'm not really feeling like it's at that point. Well, it's supposed to be released with a lot of features available. So you can see here, here's a whole slew of modules that you can access right now. These go well beyond the GPT. Notice GPT-4 is not on that list, right? So I don't know how to get access to GPT-4 from this. I think they have that kind of cordoned off, shut off to just the average person. Well, the GitHub Copilot?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes and no. I have some employees, I got the GitHub Copilot, but there's 2 pieces to GitHub Copilot. One is the chat feature, which we'll see tonight. And the chat feature, you might still be on the wait list. And unfortunately, some of my interns are on the wait list and they're frustrated because they want to do what I'm about to show you, right? So definitely go up here, check it out. Definitely highly recommend that. Let me come back. All right. Couple of things about model selection. If you pick a model with 170 trillion parameters versus a model with 175 billion parameters, which do you think would cost you more? The one with more parameters. Question becomes, do you need it? All right. We saw just a little bit ago, I tried to pick up Powerball lottery. All right. And I could get it, but it's the way I had to ask it, how would you know? Well, that's what you need to go, you need to test, and you need to experiment, and you need to see. But what's interesting is the recommendation that they say, I have to laugh at why they say this. They say, start with the most capable model. And I said, that's the most expensive. Right? And then they say, prove that you can do it, and then back it out from there. Move to older versions, move to previous versions, lesser models. And I was like, okay.
Production's always good.
Yeah, right. So I found that kind of interesting. Here's some resources that will help you figure out how to pick models, one on the OpenAI side and one on the Azure OpenAI side. But this becomes a capability versus cost scenario. So yes, sir.
I heard that the historical data, they want to go back to 2021, right? You find any limitations to what you need to do to
So here's an interesting thing. I was preparing this presentation. I was asking ChatGPT about GPT-4. Do you think it had it in there? No. Did you give me a response? Yes. It knew enough to say, hey, I don't have full understanding of this, right? And many times, if it doesn't know something, like something occurred in the last 2 years, it'll tell you that occurred in the last 2 years. Now, how it at least has some of that understanding, that's kind of interesting. I'm like, how does it know at least to even tell you that it doesn't know that? Right? But you know, you're gonna find that it, you know, there are things that it doesn't have. Okay. That's why you have fine tuning on certain types of data sets that aren't in the base model. That's why, you know, these models are constantly versioning. One of the things that Azure OpenAI does, which is really important, is when a new model comes out, guess what Azure OpenAI can do? Automatically version you up to the next model so that you're always taking advantage of the latest thing. You can't do that with OpenAI. OpenAI, you tell it, I'm using X, right? I'm using GPT Turbo 3.5, whatever that, right? And that's what you're on. And for you to up level to the next model, you have to go and change your code. Well, you don't have to do that with Azure, you know, and their OpenAI service. They have this automatic up version. So, make sense? All right.
When you say cost,
Hold on a second. Yes.
So I have one question, like you were talking about training the models. So are you training the models from Azure OpenAI or
Training them up there, right? So they actually have the ability to do the training within the platform. But you provide the data, right? Provide access to the data. I wanted to show it, but they're over capacity right now, so they locked everything down. And but you can do it up there. Now, the question that you're asking is, can I offline train something? I don't know, right? But I know you can train it up there and provide access to data.
when you say costs, what are we talking, thousands of dollars? Because I remember way back when, I forget what it was, if you forgot to shut your model down, you got charged, you know,
Now, this is basically per use,
for use.
right? And you know.
You know what I'm referring to, right?
Yeah, basically, if you had something at rest, right, you start the shit ton of money,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's not that, it's actually on use. It's based on a token-based system, and actually, we might be able to see that real quick, so let me see if I can at least. I'll create a new deployment here. Let's do this. Test. Yes. All right, so look at this. One thing to look at is you get 239,000 tokens per minute quota available for your deployment. You can actually slide this up and down. Okay. Now, what's interesting, this is your rate limiting. Okay. Process to call it your, hey, I'm not being broke at the end of this. But it is something that's important to understand. When I move this model all the way down to the bottom here is, look at this, 6 requests per minute. Right? Well, no, well, there are tokens you get,
Thousands.
and then they have a number of requests per minute. So, you know, you get a bucket of tokens and that comes out every request, right? And they have a cost per request in tokens. Make sense? And the cost per token or cost per request in tokens is based on the model, right? Number of parameters in the model, the capabilities of the model, that type of thing. So one model might be, and this is just fictional, I'm making it up, might be 8 tokens per request. Another one might be 80. Right? So keep that in mind. Okay. Come back to.
Can you watch your billing in real time?
I don't know.
why I asked.
Yeah. You know what? I haven't even looked at it. Yes. So, all right. All right, real world integration. Some things, I mean, I already mentioned some of this already. You want to limit yourself. Right, so definitely put limits on this because these things aren't cheap. You know, this is why you're gonna see a lot of recommendations on the internet saying, you don't need GPT-4. Right, you can go with lesser models. And guess what? In a lot of cases, they're right. But you have to do the work to do that. Costs are based on tokens, right? And as I said, each request a certain number of tokens. Something I preach to my people back at the office is secure your APIs. You know, one of the things that we love to do in Mill5 is break other people's APIs, right? And see what happens. You know, usually a customer will come to us and say, I got this thing, it's secure, and we're like, no. Right? So secure your APIs, rate limit your APIs. Put them behind a microservice. Everybody knows me, knows I love microservices. Well, I'm talking about services, but there's a lot of value here. If you have the ability to have ban lists or allow lists, definitely put those things in because you want to secure and lock these things down from use. Things like throttling, like denial of service type stuff, putting an API gateway in front of this or putting some type of middleware to protect your systems. When I build systems for our customers, we tend to try to figure out the most cost effective. Actually, shouldn't say cost. We do. Right? We're pretty famous for it, but you know, at the cost of relationships with, like, say, Google and Amazon and Microsoft. So, you know, those folks will be like, "Oh, you can do this." I'm like, "Yeah, and that costs us 10 times more, and we can do the same thing for less." So, my point on this is just to give you some best practices that you should be looking at when building these systems. I definitely highly recommend it. Somebody mentioned GitHub Copilot. So we're going to see real quick creating some tests. And it's pretty awesome. So, all right. So here I have an application. It's called What Are the Odds? It is a Lotto-based application. It gives quick picks for Powerball and Mega Millions. It's something that I have my interns building this summer. I wanted them to generate some random usernames, right? So this is the username random generator. And I use this as an example of saying, hey, I want to generate a unit test for this. So I want a unit test for this class. What unit test frameworks are out there? XUnit. Okay, well, let's see what this does. Ah, look, it says XUnit. So it generated a single test, all right? And it says generate username, return valid username. Nope. Please use NUnit. Oh, it's now NUnit. Now add a stress test.
Kind of do mocking and stubbing.
You can do a lot of stuff. It's actually mocking some of it in the test already. All right, so it added the stress test. Let's add a parallel stress test. So, you know, here's the parallel stress test. So this thing is pretty awesome. What's interesting is you can get very complex, and I'm just using a simple class that doesn't have any parameters. My team will use it to generate, you know, all sorts of negative and positive tests against their classes, including, you know, fuzzy tests and all sorts of stuff. I saw one, my business partner, he generated 70 tests in like a couple of minutes. Just took it and handed it to the developer. Said, go make this work. was pretty awesome. So, yes, it does, right? So I currently spend on ChatGPT plus $20 a month. That gets me OpenAI. And I spend another $20 a month on GitHub Copilot. Right? And I have
Spend on Azure, Azure AI.
I'm a Microsoft partner.
Okay, yeah.
So no, I don't get free. Well, I get a lot of stuff for free. The big challenge is over the years, Microsoft has figured out little ways for us to pay. Right. So we still pay a lot, but it's hard because a lot of our Azure services, I do a yearly fee to participate in the program. And I have to pay for that, and I have to pay for like Office 365 E5 because I want the next level up, and I have to pay for a whole bunch of other stuff. So by the time I'm done, I'm definitely paying Microsoft. Right? So, but are they helping us out? Sure. So.
Yes, you can use the Copilot in your commercial application.
I'm sorry, what?
You can use the Copilot in your commercial applications.
Yes. Right. I mean, you can use that to generate a whole bunch of stuff. It's totally fine. So.
And how do you know how good those tests?
Run them.
Well, no.
I mean,
Listen, I took a look at some of them. Like some of the mocking I didn't agree with. Right. But some of the tests I was like, yeah, that makes total sense.
At least you get your template, everything up and running.
Yeah. I mean, imagine.
you are saving a lot of time just having it set up, everything for you.
So the other day, I did something kind of funny. I said, generate a game, Simon Says, in .NET and Mount. And it went to town. And it gave me something. And I was like, oh. But then it told me, oh, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, and it doesn't do this other thing, it doesn't do that other thing. So what do you think I said? I said, add this in. Right? And it did. Now, did it work? Did it get me 90% of the way there? Yes. So,
Did it create the whole solution of the project or just spit out some text?
it didn't create the project and the files and things like that, created the text, but it was enough that I could just copy and paste it into an actual
You
application.
have scaffolding for your application. You can just put these in.
Exactly.
And something I found is I had it generate a unit of measure routine for me, that if then else statements. I said, improve this. Came back with Lambda code. All you have to do is just say improve.
There's a lot of people that are scared about this technology. I look at it as, if I didn't have to write that test, what more could I do? That's the key. Yes, sir.
But you have integrity. There could be a lot of development that houses out there.
Who the hell said I had integrity?
I've known you long enough. You have some.
No, I have integrity.
So the question is, how many jobs take this step and throw stuff out there and give it a bad reputation? And
I'm gonna highlight a friend of mine does this, somebody that I met recently through my partner. She's this guy, he's wicked smart, owns a few businesses, his businesses are on kind of this autopilot kind of thing, so he has a lot of spare time. And somehow I was like his, let's talk to Rich, right? Constantly. You know what this guy does for spare time? Goes up to a company called London Labs. Takes sampling of voices from his favorite actors or actresses, combines them to create a new voice, and then uses that voice to create new narratives for Audible. He doesn't speak. He creates this digital artificial intelligence voice that now is reading full text and he sells it back. Audible and some of these other book, translations, audio thing. And he makes money. And he does like no work. He just hands the text over to the AI, and because he has his custom voice, and he picks like 3 actresses he really likes, and comes up with this really cool voice, and that is the new speech.
That's legal. That's being litigated, actually.
Yeah.
How legal that is.
Well, here's something you see a lot in the news these days. Elderly. And they get a call. And it is their family member saying, I'm in jail. I need the money right away. Somebody's got to come get it from me. And they show up to their doorstep and knock on the door. And I'm here to help your grandson get out of jail. I need the money. And they hand over the money. They don't know any better. They think it's their relative. That's scary. I went to the Boston Generative AI meetup in Boston yesterday. And they were talking about a company local here whose whole mission is to identify fake AI stars. That's the whole mission. All right, so this can be used for good or for evil. So, yes.
Joanna Stern wrote in the Wall Street Journal article about how she simulated her own voice and got her bank to take the voice instructions.
Yeah. This is very scary. So
We have a question online. You use semantic kernel.
I have not, but some of my team has, so I'm just becoming familiar with it. That's actually kind of interesting. My two partners, James and Shri, I wish they were here tonight because the 3 of us complement each other very well. And James is actually very much into that today, kernel and stuff right now. Okay, quick takeaway. So the very first one is me talking about, a takeaway. Artificial intelligence and the use of large language models such as GPT is helping to accelerate our learning each day. I asked you in the beginning of this, how many people are using AI each day? If you're not, tomorrow will be day 1. Okay, I'm not kidding. All right, if you're not using it, you need to start doing so immediately. It'll be the difference on whether you take yourself to the next level or get left behind. Okay, there is no not doing this as a technologist. You have to do this as a technologist. Every one of my employees that I talk to, I say, what have you done on AI today? So, all right, then I took that same exact text and asked ChatGPT 3.5 to rewrite it. The application of artificial intelligence and utilization of advanced language models like ChatGPT are increasingly enhancing our daily learning experiences. If you have yet to embrace AI, now is time to do so without delay. It can make all the difference in propelling you to new heights or risk falling behind in today's rapid evolving landscape. Okay, I get the message, but I don't talk like that. I really don't talk like that. Then I said, okay, ChatGPT 4, you do the same thing. Utilizing artificial intelligence, including large language models like ChatGPT, is enhancing our learning processes every day. Those who have yet to embrace AI should consider incorporating it into their routine without delay. It could provide, or it could prove to be the determining factor between advancing to new heights and lagging behind. Okay, so what did we learn about those 2 things? It seemed, I didn't feel like it was me, right? Felt too kind of out there. So I said, okay, ChatGPT 4, shorten this. All right, AI and large language models like ChatGPT boost daily learning. Not using AI, start now to avoid being left behind and ensure progress. Okay, that's a little better. but you can still tell it's not me. Right? So, that being said, what do you want to know about this presentation?
Done with ChatGPT.
Pretty much every word in this deck. And the images were for ChatGPT, Dolly, Dreams, Deep Dream, everything in here. Anybody want to guess how long it took me to create this presentation?
Two pizza slices. Elapsed calendar time or just elapsed?
Elapsed calendar time.
4 days.
I woke up yesterday morning at 6:36 in the morning and was finished by 8:15.
But you did nothing else.
During that time, nothing else. But you saw what's in this deck. Right? Seriously. So,
ChatGPT has put other languages besides English.
I don't think so. I don't know if it's doing it, but I know that there are like Bloom supports multiple languages.
I converted with it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it will do translation. Right?
But actually, I had a conversation with you back and forth, where I spoke to him in French and he responded back in French.
Yeah, there you
I know for a fact it speaks Russian and Italian, but that's why.
go. Okay. Well, I've actually, this is bad. This is really bad. I'm gonna tell you something. So, I met a woman last year. She's Cuban. And she speaks fluent Spanish, fluent English. And I hate to say it. I said, write me a love poem in Spanish. So, and she thought it was the best thing ever. And then she realized she's dating a nerd. She said to me, did you write that or did ChatGPT write it? So,
The sleep comes out.
but that being said, you're right, it does understand multiple languages, but not all models do though, right? To be clear, right? So that's an interesting part. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you so much.